What's going on, people? Every stream is a surprise stream because you don't know for sure if a stream is going to happen, even if I announce one. It could get canceled. I could be lying. Any further thoughts about Wolfram's recent research? What do you want me to say besides what he said? Before they can begin to be taken seriously, fuck you. That's all I have to say about that. Don't denigrate decades of serious work by people who have thought deeply about something because you read half of a tweet and you're like, blah, blah, blah. Look, this posting that Wolfram made and the video that Eric Weinstein recently released are just examples of things that we have been desperately needing for decades and have been lacking because people are afraid to be considered quacks, right? When in fact, look, there is such a thing as a quack. There's lots of quacks, which is why people are afraid to be considered. Well, it's a long story, but look, all the people who made real progress in physics were not afraid to make new hypotheses about what might underpin reality that were potentially wrong. People used to do that all the time in the early 1900s. And then at some point we decided that that was uncouth, right? And as a result, we've been stagnating. And so if anyone wants to denigrate that pursuit, go somewhere else. That's all I have to say about that. I mean, of course, there's a difference between a high school student toking on a bong and putting a random theory of the universe and someone who's put a great deal of thought and effort into it and has some things that that seem worthwhile, But yeah, anyone who has anything bad to say about either of those things, it's like someone saying, it's like people gossiping about Elon Musk or whatever. It just drives my blood pressure through the roof. All right. I'm going to make some tea and then we'll do a little programming. Actually, let me get an ice. No. I hate it when I can't decide between iced or hot tea. So about the Wolfram thing specifically, while the tea is heating, I have an okay level of physics knowledge. It's not super deep. So I'm not able to if you work with physics problems on a day-to-day basis, you're conversant with them in a way where you can automatically start thinking about, but what about this thing and what about that thing? I certainly don't have that. Some aspects of physics kind of math I do work with on a somewhat daily basis. So spinners, right? I do work with regularly and have an intimate understanding of. certain specific cases of spinors, right? Other parts of physics, like even like relativistic boost stuff, or like quantum mechanics type of stuff, I don't do regularly. I have done occasionally, right? And so I'm not the person you want to ask to evaluate these things. But they at least, nevertheless, they seem very interesting to me. Specifically, well, here's the thing. So the fact that in Wolfram's thing, because that's what I read today, you seem to get various things like Lorentz contraction, right? And, Ricci curvature and all that stuff. You seem to get them out of a very simple model. That is the kind of thing that mathematical physicists look for. Now, what I don't have a feel for is whether, so maybe in fact, those things that he's getting are so easy to get that you could get them even out of other systems that are equivalently simple, right? But aren't graph rewrite systems. Possibly that could be true. But I've never heard that said. Like, that would be a very major thing to understand about physics if that were true, right? And I haven't heard that said. I don't have a clear picture of the degree of contrivance that's being put in order to get those things out. Like, I followed the verbal arguments that he made there, but I haven't worked through it in detail, which I would look forward to doing a little bit later, and just seeing how it comes out. Why would you work with spinors? You thought they were mostly theoretical. A quaternion is a spinor. It's a very specific kind of spinor. You saw a lot of people scared that ideas like this undermine the concept of consciousness. They don't do that any more than any other physical theory would undermine the concept of consciousness. They don't. That's just an artifact of people not thinking enough about these things, or not observing enough. That's all. All right, I'm going to have to remember not to oversteep the tea. So today, let's make a test level before we do anything. Trying to implement a good entity system. Stop. Stop. Do you normally save also a name for an entity, or do you prefer to save an ID? What I think is to give a description is only present for debug reason. Don't include it on release builds. You probably want IDs for your entities. I have them because that's how you look things up. And honestly, so once upon a time, I had a system with entities that had inconsistent IDs, and it was very hard to debug because if I loaded up the level different times, things might well be referred to differently, and I had nothing to track them by, and that sucked. So I recommend having IDs. All right. So what happens in this game is the bard can charm other people and have them go with her, and they'll drown and other bad things like that. So you notice the timing isn't good. Like, as she goes fast, she kind of outruns this guy. Several dippy kind of things are happening. But also, charming in this game right now is it's its own separate code path that's different from normal entity motion, or normal non-charmed motion, and that's bad. And that's just it was a shortcut hack that I did a long, long time ago. But it means that things are never going to behave all that well until I recombine it with the main system. And so that's what I want to do now. So for example, I doubt that the Bard will be able to push this block. Maybe. No. See, she just went through that block. That's not good. So the thing is, like, she can't go through it from the side because she's not strong enough to push it. From here, it knows she's strong enough to push it, but then the game just breaks because she doesn't actually push it. So we want to fix that. We want the Bard to be able to push blocks, among other things. And that's going to kind of be my test. My first success will be, can the Bard push a block when she's in strong beams? And then after that, we'll maybe get to more. You wanted to ask how you implemented clicking things on things in the editor. Yesterday, you implemented rendering the scene to a texture where each pixel is the entity ID. No, don't do that. The problem with that is you're entangling editing with your rendering system, and that's complexity that you'll never get rid of, and it'll fail on you, and you won't like it. Look, you need to be able to do ray triangle intersection anyway. So just have every entity have a bounding sphere or other simple bounding volume, which we need for visibility calling anyway. And when you click on something in the editor, just cast a ray into the scene, do an early reject on every entity where the ray is outside the bounding sphere. And then for every entity where the ray pierces the bounding sphere, just cast the ray against every triangle. Computers are fast. And that's how we do it. You do not want to loop editing through graphics if you can help it. It is absolutely, so the thing is, okay, video games are a lot of work. That's still the #1 problem. It's not as bad as it used to be. It used to be that it was almost impossible to make a game at all. Now that there's all these frou-frou engines and stuff and that we understand the problem better, it's more like just finishing a game of any level of ambition is really hard, and not having to cut all sorts of things is really hard. And so you want to help yourself out there as much as possible. And so the size of work that needs to be done can be greater to achieve a certain level of functionality, can be greater or it can be less depending on how complicated your system is. And so if you keep the system as simple as possible, you won't have to do as much work. So that's why I say that things like that are very important. Did I check out Millie and Molly? Is that the C64 thing? I mean, we could try it at some point on the stream. I don't expect it to like be an actual good game because you know, projects like this are never better than current PC games, but it would be cute to play. It certainly looks better than most C64 games of the era. Can't wait for PS5. Yeah, we'll see. What about having a frame buffer filled with IDs using a very simple renderer? Why? Writing a renderer is way more complicated than writing a raycast. Like a raycast is like very simple. And it, like I said, you have to have most or all of that functionality anyway. Like, why would you write something that scan converts polygons into a software buffer if you didn't have to? What do I think of the bus speed of PS5 versus modern PC? I don't remember what the bus speed is offhand. It took 20 minutes to implement. Yeah, but you'll be paying for it for the rest of development. I already elaborated on the problems with coupling, editing, and rendering. It increases systemic complexity. I mean, look, here's what I would recommend. If you like this approach, that's fine. Just as you continue developing the game, notice every problem that you have because you did things this way. Just notice when you have to change rendering, when your render target is the wrong resolution because your code is confused, right? Whatever happens. Just notice and make a running list of all the things you had to pay for because you did it this way. And then when you finish the project and ship it, and it's a good game at the end, you can look back and see if that was worth it. And maybe you'll say, oh, it was fine. That's fine. I'm not telling you you have to do things the way that I say, but I'm just telling you why I wouldn't do it that way. Why is this still an issue in 2020? Because programmers are bad at their jobs. I mean, also, if you just think about resource usage, like you're spending GPU and memory to select things. It's like, it's kind of exorbitant. But I mean, if you only render that buffer on frames where you actually click the mouse button, maybe it's not that bad. But again, I mean, all sorts of shit is going to happen, dude. Like GPU state leaks are going to mess up your render and you're not going to know why. Like all sorts of stuff is going to happen. Like GPUs are the worst part of game programming. You want to minimize your interaction with GPUs. Okay. So we have our little test level. So right here, there's this whole thing. It's like a lot of code, and it does these multi-passes that are no longer necessary. And we're just going to cut all this out and then figure out how to put some of it back. All right. So for a second, I'm going to paste all this at the bottom. We're going to de-indent. This is the normal path that normal characters go through. Okay. So this is a weird thing because we ask if we can go. But our charmed characters this is going to be weird. Okay. We're going to do, like, we have this weird thing about how the detection of whether we can go somewhere needs to know that it doesn't have to worry about running into us. And that kind of thing. And we'll have some exceptions for that, or some handling for that. In the meantime, we're not going to. We're just going to go. Look, if we can charm, we're going to make this variable called charming if we're doing charm stuff. Okay. If we're charming, we're just going to call some function that I don't know, we're going to say add charmed entities to transaction. I don't know, I probably need to pass some more information. And then this is going to do a bunch of things. And the reason I set this variable is because I think we're going to need to do at least 2 passes worth of things eventually. This first one is just going to do a lot of what's here, but cut out some of it. Oh, hey, Andy. What's up, dude? You know, are you still living in San Diego? Because, like, if I was going to be trapped at home or at home plus whatever parks nearby, I would much rather be in San Diego than San Francisco. I grew up in San Diego from like 6th grade to the end of high school. I was in northern San Diego County, right? So yeah, I kind of missed that a little bit. I was back there. I ended up going to San Diego for the Sony PlayStation reveal conference. It was in San Diego last year. And I went out to like Ocean Beach and stuff and went to Balboa Park, and that was all cool. You went to Torrey Pines? I grew up in in Penasquitos. And I went to Mount Carmel High School. Yeah, it wasn't, you know, it's a little bit out in the sticks for San Diego, but, you know, it wasn't too far from anything, right? It's not like, I don't know. It's not like living super far out. Yeah, it probably feels more central now compared to back then, right? Because I'm sure everything's grown and gotten a little more dense. Yeah. What did my parents do? My dad was a defense contractor person. He was an aerospace engineer manager. Infection rate is super low. Well, that's good. That's interesting because San Diego had a couple of the first cases, but I guess that hasn't resulted in anything being really bad. All right. So we're going to get all the charmed entities. Remove skipping stones. Visual interpolation for the bard will queue up a new action and fire before we retire. I don't think... I don't think this can happen anymore. We're just going to leave it in, like, kind of comment it out. I think that's a vestige of the old movement system. All right. We're going to not put the guy in there for now because we're combining this with other stuff. And then this I don't think we need. This is where it starts getting different. It's been very rainy. Oh, that's too bad. Too bad. Wondering if I've mentioned our plans to announce a new game. No, we don't know. We've got to figure it out. How to announce. What do I think of Remedy now? Max Payne was a cool game. Okay. So all of this is the old way things used to work and had lots of bad side effects. Yeah, let's pass in a ridge delta here, so that we don't have to guess it. So for everyone who was found, we get a move info, and this says like look at the world state, see what target square we would move to based on where we are, because you might have some effects on you that modify that. We pick up. Is that the right function to call? Yeah. Okay. And then we're not going to do these. Like, I don't even know. Okay. So if we can go, there's not going to be pushes. I think I can leave that be null. So pushes. Yeah, pushes is not a thing. This must go after. Need to worry about that. Okay. So if we can go, okay, this is this pushing hack, which actually it's a complete copy of the other thing, and it didn't even work. Like that's all this code that should have made that block pushing test case that we just tried work, and it didn't. So, and this is all crap. Yeah, oh my God, this is terrible. Okay. So instead of doing all this, we want to go add move, transaction, guy, other move info. I think just that. Much simpler loop than we had, except for this part. Okay. And then all this stuff about Smashing, yeah, we want to test that. I want to write down things to test. We want to be able to push. We want to be able to teleport, push, smash. We want to have a guy in front, guy behind. We'll explain in a bit when we test these what they all are about. You don't understand what the term dynamic programming means. Okay, dynamic programming is not programming. Dynamic programming is math. There's a funny anecdote about it. It's called dynamic programming because the guy who invented the technique needed to scam his manager who didn't like math and who liked programming. So that's why you can't understand what dynamic programming is, because it's not programming, okay? It's just math. Have I ever done LeetCode code problems? No. Have I fixed the 97 failed tests? We're down to like 86 or something. I'm just, occasionally fixing a couple as we go. Okay. Okay. So we need to we're going to do some, for anyone who saw the transaction stream, you'll know that down here when I'm making a transaction, which is what we're doing, we're not really allowed to do things like send animation messages or make effects, but well, we're going to do that for now, and we're going to make a note that we should fix it later with this transaction correctness note, and I have that written down on my piece of paper. So why are there two move types? Original move type. Oh, right, because of the wand and stuff. Well, I don't know. So they maybe turn, and we maybe send an animation message. Oh. This is all stuff to do, right? Otherwise, if you can't go, then we do this. And just so that we don't miss that, we'll put one of these there. Okay, well, I mean, wait, why do we have 2 for founds? That's not right. Close that one. Okay, there we go. We're not really returning anything. Okay, so add charmed. Pass ridge delta in there. Let's see how much of a mess we made. We're going to have a bunch of guy. I should just make it a guy. You know what? Okay. I declared identifier delta. Missing argument cursor. Oh. So what happens when you paste code? All right. Okay, well, let's see if it does something. Well, it asserts as soon as I try to move. And then the people don't come with the Bard. So this is a quality implementation. I'm sure you can agree. This is great. Oh, she was actually able to push a thing, though. That's pretty awesome. She can push blocks, which she didn't used to be able to do. However, some things are happening. Let's just say that. Oh, you know what? Okay, first of all, we're including ourselves. That'll break things right there. Probably is not the only problem. Nope. And in fact, we're getting behavior that is a little, no, about the same. About the same. Why are we charming ourselves? Oh, I'm passing the wrong. See, if you want to succeed in the game industry, you know what? If you want to succeed in the game industry, just succeed in the game industry, all right? Just do me a favor and succeed in the game industry. All right. Okay. Cool. We have a bard moving around. It's kind of messed up as expected, but not completely unrelated to what we want to happen. Okay. So the first thing you'll notice, if I go south from here, it'll work, right? If I go north, the guy in the middle will not go north. And the reason why is because he thinks he's blocked by my bard. And so I think to handle that, so the fact that these guys are very slow to follow me is something I want to look at, but I also want to look at why the bard gets so messed up. Is that just what happens with the controller when it waits for someone else? Like, maybe. So before I fix that, the fact that the guys are so slow, I'm going to want to look at this controller thing. But this is already good progress. This could have been a much bigger disaster than it is. Seceding from game development is not that bad of an idea, honestly. All right. So I can fix this. Oh, the other problem is if the bard can't go, people still charm. That's the bigger problem. So let's handle that first, because that's a big deal. So if we're charming, remember when I said I made that charming variable because we're going to need to know it? We do need to know it. If we're charming and it turned out we couldn't move, we have to cancel all the charm movements. And you can't just search by type. So I think I'm actually going to put a flag on the moves. And that might mean we need to make a flag field. But it's time to do that. Like, let me see. On single move. See, like I have all these stupid Booleans here. This should be a flag word. Especially because that means once you have a flag word, you can serialize and deserialize it without worrying about a lot of stuff. So I'm just going to add one right now, and yeah. Well, we wanted to add added by charm is 1. We'll do it in hex because why not? Okay. So here, when we add these, we're going to say single dot flags is single dot flags dot added by charm. Okay. And then we will know to cancel those later. All right, so this function is called, oh, let's test skippable stone over water. All right. So we'll put a no check in here so we remember to delete this or undelete it. Okay. So added by charm. So after we call add charmed entities and stuff, okay. So if we can't go, then we're just going to make a separate function again. Cancel charmed moves. The reason I'm thinking about this is being very suspect. You know what? I almost just want to reset the whole damn thing. Because here's the thing. If I added those moves and then I add some other moves like some pushes or whatever, you could end up in a weird situation where a push, like, it's very rare, but a push could teleport a block into one of the squares that one of these guys is theoretically moving out of. Except that probably cannot happen if you can't move. So maybe we'll cancel all moves. In this transaction. Okay. Let me comment this. Actually, cancel all moves since this is a case in which the... Oh. Okay. Yeah, we'll see. Gonna make a note. What else should we tweak? This is going to come back and bite me later, but whatever. Let's just make a new one. Because I don't want to have to think about clearing out future fields. Okay, that's probably enough. I'm a little scared of that. Can a different character push a bard that is charming people? Would that move the others? No. Bard only charms when active. All right, well, what were we even just doing? Oh, when the bard can't move, she shouldn't be able to charm. So let's see. Hey. She can't go. Great. We have to fix some of this other gimpiness, but she could push blocks. We got to fix that. So she can push blocks. That's good. We'll test some of these right now. So let's see if she could smash blocks. I think she could push with just one of these. Right? Okay, so now she can't actually smash the block because it's in a push beam, which is interesting. All right. If she's in a push beam, she'll push it and not be able to smash it. Now she'll be able to smash it, hopefully. Bam! All right, great. Interestingly, the character's turn right now when that happens, I think. Anyway, okay, so we could smash. The guy behind her does not work. In front may work. Whoops. Okay, we got to give our bard the biggest movement priority or the smallest movement priority. Turn order 1, 3, 3 for all of you. All right. Yeah, okay, guy in front works fine. Just guy behind doesn't work. Great. Teleport. Okay, that's weird. She went, but nobody else went? Why is that? Unclear. Oh, wait. Yeah, I think we don't do Bard when teleporting. I think that's the rule we decided on, because it makes things more interesting. I'll put a question mark there, but I think that's actually the intended design. Okay, what about this skipping stone over water situation? That was fine. Yeah, so there, it did what it was going to do. So I'm trying to go left, and then I'm trying to push it north before anything happens, and I'm not able to do that. So that's what that exploit was in there for before, but that works fine with the new system, and that's just because the new system is generally better. So this no check-in that we did can go away. So now the number one thing that we have to fix is guys behind the bard. And to do that, I could hack it. Rather than adding another thing to move info, I could just add the bard's hypothetical move. In fact, I do need to add the bard's hypothetical move because if that's something weird, or if other people are going to do something weird like teleport, they need to not be able to go if they're going to end up where the bard is. Let's write that down as a test. Teleport onto board. Let's make an example before we fix it. Oh, except we can't, because the main example of that would be the guy behind the bard who doesn't move right now anyway. So we have to fix that first and then test the teleport. Okay. What if you step west in double beam with bard if the thief is 2 steps away where the bard would have ended up? So whether people are charmed or not depends on the state at the beginning of the move, not the end of the move. So I don't see where things are when things end up as mattering at all. And in general, teleports, I mean, the rule I think that we decided on is teleports don't charm. For behind guide, you simulate the bard's movement and then only move them if she can move. Yeah, well, sort of. Like we already, when we call this function, we have the move info of what square would the bard end up in. That's just here. So we're going to pretend add that. And it'll get re-added later. Yeah, this might have some bad effects that I don't quite understand. Add a dummy. Move to the transaction so that other entities know the bard's source square is vacated and target square is occupied. Is this bad for some reason, question mark. Okay. Aside from the current transaction correctness, reason that this may generate sound effects, etc., which will be fixed separately. Separately. Okay. We're going to say we're adding a move. Guy info, that's what it's called. And then we're going to set that flag, just in case. I mean, we're not actually using this flag right now, so maybe it's just for debugging. Who knows? All right, so we're going to do that. And then at the end, we're going to take it out. Single move, not transaction. I'm getting hungry. Okay, so assert that this is who we think it is. Array unordered, removed by index. Assert, oh, dude. I need a better assert. All right. Don't put a joke about banning people in there. I mean, it's kind of funny, but people get really emotional about banning. So I don't want to joke about it. I mean, maybe verbally I could occasionally joke about it, but if it shows up in text all the time, like people just might take it too seriously. Okay. Okay. Hey, look, the guy behind came with. That's great. It's so great. So I guess, well, let's test the teleport case, right? So what should happen is the middle guy doesn't move. The bard goes north 1 square, and her neighbors go north 2 squares and end up lateral to her, right? Bam! Video games. And then she'll get her guy back on her butt here. Video games. All right. That's the good part of video games. Sometimes things work. Sometimes things work. That's great. What happens if people have blocks on their head? How bad is that? Well, that's expected. That is, oh, he's in the, let's not mix this with the teleport beam. Well, that's working. Does it work with the move cancellation? Yeah. Okay. So really the main thing is this visual problem right now. That's the most objectionable thing. So we're going to fix that, which is something I've wanted to fix for other reasons too. It's already on my list for other kinds of movement. So first we'll figure out why that is so messed up, and then we'll make the charmed guys, see how the charmed guys like lag behind her? We'll make them lag less. I think she's just like, yeah, she's just like overshooting the target. I don't know. The question is, why is she overshooting? Why is controller proc? Controller proc is doing badly if the duration is not expected. All right. Are there any questions? You can address them with like Q colon. I'm going to grab a snack. I'll be back in a second, and we can answer all your questions. Is there any type of physical engineering that you find impressive enough to travel somewhere in the world just to see? Usually I get surprised by those things when I travel, and it's not like I did research in advance. Are there any on-topic questions about the programming we are doing, or should I just stop streaming because nobody's following along with what we're doing? Any general recommendations or resources for writing player controllers? That's actually on topic, sort of, because that's what I have to go adjust. But be more in detail about what you're trying to do, maybe, and I can give you a good answer. how does this tie into the transaction system? This is making a transaction for when the bard charms things. Are there any plans to have the rock on dancing character's head also move with them so it looks more like it's actually on top of them? Yeah. It's just, you know, the game's not done. Does the order of things in a single transaction matter? No, it really should not. It's, you know, everything in one transaction is just kind of happening simultaneously. What rules do charmed rocks have? That's off topic. In general, though, charmed things don't do anything except move. For instance, if you update the player's physics or check for collisions, those have side effects on the state of the character or on the state of the player. In some cases, I would even prefer not to do those calculations, like if the player's on the ground, do you really need to apply gravity? How do you prevent it from turning into a mess? Well, I mean, you're going to need to explain a little further because, like, okay, if you update the player's physics or check for collisions, those have side effects on the state of the player. Okay. What side effects? Like, why is that bad? Are they side effects that make sense or are they side effects that don't make sense? Like, what are you trying to avoid? Is there some sort of remediation step if two things in a transaction conflict? You can find out the answer to that question by watching the 5-hour-long transaction video on YouTube. That's actually not correct. These characters are supposed to drown. I didn't think of testing that. But yeah, that's wrong. They're supposed to go in the water. So we have to fix that. As soon as I'm done with my cheese. Do I buy into specific design patterns for controller input? You're going to have to explain to me what about controller input is such a big deal that you need design patterns for it. Like, what even... Like, that's what I don't understand. Like, there was the question earlier about reifying into a struct, and I'm like, what? Like, why does that matter? If you need to copy the data around, yes. Otherwise, no. Like, why would you be talking about that in the abstract? So my worry is just you're thinking about the wrong things or things that don't matter. Like, are you having a hard time understanding a gamepad? Like, I don't know what the problem statement is. Trying to think about how to better phrase it for the player physics thing. Sure. Yeah, let me know. Where did I learn how to program all this? Incrementally over many years. This sort of thing is solved in continuous physics by continuous collision. Yeah, but this isn't a continuous world. This is not a continuous world. And I don't want to have to write gameplay code. Like you're applying a type of solution that doesn't make any sense in this universe. It's not, and detecting collision is not the only problem. It's that it should take 2 turns to go diagonally in terms of time, but you just did it in only 1, for example. You've read that it can be helpful for doing stuff like allowing players to remap buttons on controllers and to implement player demo scenes and stuff if you abstract away button presses by reifying them. Is that the sort of thing you do? No. I mean, no. Like if I want to play back a demo scene, I'm probably not going to play back demo or controller input. I'm probably going to play back game events. I'm probably going to call certain functions at certain times. Like doing that by pretending to press buttons on a pretend controller is super ghetto. Okay? And you're just talking about something like, look, I don't know how to put this in a way that sounds very this is such a small thing that you're talking about that if you're thinking about it, if you're expending serious mental effort on this, I mean, that's fine, but it's a beginner thing to worry about. The real answer is do it one way, do it the other way. It doesn't matter. And if you decide to change your mind about which way later, it should be easy and simple to do. It shouldn't matter what choice you make. And so your goal is to get to a place where you don't think this kind of decision matters and that it's a waste of time talking about it, right? That is the expert programmer place that you want to get to. And so how do you get from here to there? Well, the answer might just be to get more experience by like trying this. Try it both ways. Try other things, just ship some games, right? That might be the thing. But this kind of question that you're asking is, it bothers me a little bit because this kind of thing actually blocks people from getting things done a lot of the time because they buy into relatively complicated systems. And then they think they're making progress and they spend all this effort on those systems and then they fail to ship a game or their game fails to be good. This happens all the time. And so I feel like my job is to help people avoid getting into that trap. All right. And if you're doing this because you're following advice people are giving you on the internet, most people on the internet have not shipped a good game. So be careful who you listen to. All right. So the answer to the question is put the data in a struct if you feel like it. Don't if you don't feel like it. Does it help more with character remapping? No, not really. That's a nonsensical. Whoever said that is probably not that experienced of a programmer. Does it help with playing back scenes and stuff? Maybe, but there's probably better ways to do that, honestly. Depending on what the rest of your system looks like. So like, you just want to be comfortable with either way. You want to do it one way, do it the other way, it doesn't matter. Am I doing the art too? No. Yeah, okay, so Yeah, if you're a beginner, that's a totally reasonable question. But again, the best answer I can give is it really doesn't matter. And I would also say, as a beginner, you want to start, like, the rate at which you learn matters, right? Because it's like, hey, if you're a beginner now, in 2 years, how good will you be? Or whatever, in 1 year, in 6 months, how good will you be, right? And well, the tactic that you take toward learning matters, right? A lot, obviously. And so one of the things that I think matters the most to learn is to start developing a sense for what things are hard and what things are easy. Like the question of like, how do you represent controller input? It's kind of almost like a fashion statement, right? Like what it's not really going to make any algorithm harder or easier, right? It's not going to make it's not going to make it some phase transition happen from some type of game being impossible to implement and then possible to implement. That's not what kind of thing that is. It might make your code slightly more cleaner or slightly more messy depending on what the rest of your system looks like. That's the extent to which that kind of decision matters. So, as you keep getting more experience, start to look for things that matter a lot more, because those are the things that you need to put more mental energy into. Like, I don't know, like what those are might depend very heavily on what you do. But something like, is it possible to do collision detection in this kind of a game without unexpected or undesirable results happening sometimes? And if so, how do I do? What's the general framework for that? That's something that's a lot more complicated, has a lot more like sub areas to it, and matters more in terms of the way your game feels to the end user, right? Because like where you store your data that came in from the gamepad, it's quite possible that has no effect, no visible effect to any player in terms of the game looking or feeling any different, right? In terms of collision detection, like how you decide to do it and what the properties of that are matter a lot more, right? And so you want to look for that kind of a thing. And those are the kind of things that you really want to think harder about. And other stuff, like it's fine to form your own stylistic opinion about how you want to store gamepad data, but it doesn't matter, right? Like if 10 years from now, you go up to the 10 years from now version of John Carmack, whoever that'll be, and start trying to talk to him about whether you reify controller data or not, like it's just, he's going to try to end the conversation as quickly as possible because it's not that interesting of a conversation. So you want to develop, you want to gain an eye for those things. Like what are those things? What are the things that'll make a game not possible into possible? And what are the things that'll turn a game from not being good into being good, right? Those are the things you want to look for. Still John Carmack? Maybe. He's doing AI now, so who knows? How do you keep yourself motivated when debugging? Try to get better at debugging, because then at least you're working on a skill. Like try to more quickly see what the problem is without having to step through as much stuff. If you make your code less complicated, then it's more enjoyable to debug. If you're less confused about what's going on, then it's more enjoyable to debug. If you don't end up debugging as often because your system is simpler to deal with, so you don't make as many bugs, or if you just get better as a programmer and so you don't make as many bugs, and so you debug less often, it'll be less tedious. So all these things help. I mean, on the bright side, if you improve anything at all over time, then debugging will never be as bad as it is for you today, right? Unless you start programming some really, really heinous, difficult things. Go ask Elon Musk about model airplane best practices. Yeah, it's more like paper airplane best practices, honestly. Because at least a model airplane has to fly. Although it is a bit different from a rocket. Okay, we have to get people to drown. Why are people not drowning? Am I calling is willing to go? Yes, okay. Um, this should not be here. That's good, because I was not liking that we were going to have to handle that. Is willing to go is what prevents people from drowning. So now if I walk over here, it'll be like, whoopsie, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but at least you got a block. Let's make that a level. Is the charm rewrite purely technical or are the semantics changing? Well, it's always been kind of broken. And the reason it was kind of broken is because it was in its own separate code path that was always supposed to be temporary. It was just like, let me just do a crappy version of this so that we can design some levels and have the game go. And so now we're at the point where the semantics of the old version are not quite right, but we don't want to invest into that, right? We want to rebuild it as a new thing. Now that we know how the movement system actually will work. And so that's all we're doing. Okay, so my question is, why are we frickin' overshooting next? So like, why are we going forward and then back? That's so weird. Let me just, let's delete some stuff off the screen here. Let's start us at the edge. We're going to start here. We're going to go there. Going to delete the beams. The beams were useful. We're even going to delete this. And so she goes in exactly 1 square forward almost. That might just be overshooting on the acceleration of the thing. What's up, dude? How do I design a lot of levels, note an idea down and flesh it out later? Well, I just write the idea down because I'm not working on that right now. And I have like 300 level ideas written down, so it's quite a backlog. Sometimes I just decide to go pull stuff off the backlog. So like yesterday, I designed 3 levels, all of which were things that I'd written down in the past week or two, you know. Is she getting confused about who she's attached to? No, it's just there's some kind of a, okay. So what's going on? Transactions have a duration. We're not really drawing it here, but they have many fields. And one of them is just how long does it take till the transaction's over? But individual moves inside the transaction also have durations. And I think those are screwing with each other somehow. But I don't exactly know. Let me see if it goes away if we make these shorter. Like we can match the duration for now. All right. See if that helps. We have to fix it either way. It's very undesirable, but nope, that didn't fix anything. Very weird. Oh! It's that she's not the first transaction or the first move. There is supposed to be this thing in this game where maybe she is the first. Let's see if she's before I go rambling. But there's a bunch of code that I have on my to-do list that like assumes that anyone who has like dependent things. Yeah, no, see, she's the last index. And that really, that breaks stuff. There are several things. So if we go to move transaction here, there's several things. For example, I just searched for Sub-Zero, not the Mortal Kombat character. So here we say, you know, this is just something to do about setting a character's velocity to 0. But to do that, we're looking for the controller that runs someone. And we're doing that just by looking in slot 0, which in this case, you're not in slot 0. And I mean, I need to think about what's the right thing to actually do. This was a shortcut that I did when originally doing this system, right? So again, here I'm looking for a controller proc to decide when the transaction is done. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So here we set this driven by a controller flag, which again won't be getting set for this Bard thing, which might be why the Bard's so messed up. This whole thing about asking if somebody is in a particular, oh man. Okay, so that's like 5 or 6. Who calls that? Oh, is someone being pushed or pulled? In pushing. All right. So this is all going to have to get fixed. Is all going to have to get fixed. Well, that'll at least get one other thing off my list. So event order does matter. Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in terms of what actually happens as a result of the events, but the code is making some assumptions for code simplicity purposes that it shouldn't be. How many blocks deep is the ocean? Well, it's like 1 block, but we don't let you stand on corpses. It's just how the game works. We could, I guess, in theory. But you don't stand on corpses in this game. So a corpse won't block you if there's one on the ground that you're walking around. So, and in fact, they're probably going to fade out for that reason. Can the transaction system be explained as a sort of a batched event system? There is a 5-hour video on YouTube that will explain to you all about the transaction system. It just went up yesterday, or today, I guess. Is your goal to make gameplay so smooth that no player will ever guess how complicated the movement system is? Sure. I mean, the player shouldn't have to think it's complicated. They should just be able to move around the game and do stuff. That's all. All right. So, what do I do about these? I mean, these are all a little bit annoying. This one I can rewrite pretty straightforwardly. Let me just think about this slot 0 thing. Because we have two strategies. One, generalize all this code so it doesn't care about slot 0, which sounds like a good idea if it's actually the case that slot 0 shouldn't matter. And in fact, it shouldn't. So, okay, here's the thing. We have this driven by a controller, right, that gets set. And we see if the controller procs are done and all that. The thing is, the reason I had that was because I was thinking about like, well, you have a character pushing a block, and the character is the controller proc, and the block is just a thing. But you actually can have multiple characters with controllers on them, for example, when you have clones. So, because of the clone thing, you kind of want to check all the controller procs. Right? Okay. Yeah, spoilers. You get spoiled if you see this game is going to be so huge with so much cool stuff. It's going to be so much bigger than any game that I've ever done. Oh my God. You have no idea. You have literally no idea. It'll be hard to spoiler things. I mean, yeah, I mean, the existence of certain ideas is a spoiler, but man, there's going to be so many cool puzzles. 1001 levels, you know, I don't know if we will get to that. But I'm pretty sure we'll have at least 600. I'm pretty sure we will have more entire 3D levels in this game than The Witness had individual puzzles. Where do you design the ideas for puzzles? You just have them, and then you play around in the editor. So if you've seen this editor that I do stuff in, I just like start doing stuff like, oh, maybe there's a wall here, right? Or maybe there's not. Maybe there's 5 of these, right? Like, that's all it is. You want to be able to try your ideas out quickly. That's what makes it a good way to design. Did I ever expect this game to grow larger than The Witness? No, not really. Is this game 3? No, this is not game 3. Game 3 is going to be insane. Insane. No, this isn't game 3. Game 3 comes out after this, so don't get excited about that. Yeah, this is game 2.5. Game 3 is the non-puzzle game, yes. But we have native OpenGL support. OpenGL support is a library thing. Yes, we'll have a starter library for GL, but I think GL sucks, so whatever. Whatever. like OpenGL is, I don't understand why people ask about it still so often. Like, it's a dead API. It has no future. Why people think it still has a future, I don't actually know. All I can guess is that maybe there's just a lack of education in some way out there. Like, maybe there's a bunch of websites with old information or something. Do I think insight into the transaction system will help speedrunners find cool game-breaking stuff? Maybe, but probably not. Probably they would try to break the game the same way you try to break any game, which is just do a bunch of really weird things and see what happens. All right. So I'm just going to start replacing these sub-zeros, and this may not even fix all the problems. If we don't find any, or if okay. Whoops, these go here. If it's a controller proc, found a controller proc is true. Wait, we used to search for controller is done, right? If we found a controller proc, otherwise we're done. If we found a controller proc, if they're not all unfinished, we're done. Wait, this is true, not false. I don't know how I mess simple things like that up, but I think it's just my brain getting ahead of itself. Okay, so I'm just going to try walking around a little, and I'm going to try a couple regular levels. Uh-oh, we're compressing textures. Just making sure they're playable. And then we'll run a Benny test. Because, oh, you know what? We'll do one more Sub-Zero and then do a Benny test. Okay, I'm not going to try to solve this right now. Test. Boom. Okay, great. Okay, one more Sub-Zero. Oh, let's do the driven by a controller where we set the flag. All right. Okay. So let's try that. Yeah, the actual levels look good. This is not an actual level. Well, there are many actual levels that are still in design phase, right? So that's interesting that the Sub-Zeros we fixed didn't already fix this problem, but or actually, it's not as bad, actually. Now look, she's not overshooting horribly. It's just the characters are lagging. That's great. That's great, actually. Look at that. We fixed it. Ship it. That might break some of the timed levels. Look at that, guys. So much better. She's not backtracking. Oh, let me, I'll play through a couple levels again. And then Benny test. I don't know, let's do one of these. There's a little bit of flickering on those blocks that I want to take care of at some point soon. All right, what's another one? Oh, this might have to compress some textures. Low frame rate because of debug builds. It's good to stress test your games at low frame rate, though. Whoops. I actually don't know if this will work with the new. I have to. There we go. I don't know if it works in the sense of keeping me out if I don't have that being powered. All right. Boop, 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 boop. 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 Oh, let's go back and smash some more. Smash some bricks. Get to a new screen. Yeah, let's smash some more bricks. At a low frame rate. It's almost like the new version of OBS. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we got things. Now we can circumnavigate the globe. Oh, I never got the map gem. Great. I'm going to make a release build, and we're going to run a test. Yeah, the only reason the frame rate there is really low is just because our renderer is super unoptimized. And that'll be fixed when we do the real ports to the real graphics APIs. It's a long compile time. It's optimizing. Like optimizing is combinatoric. That's what LLVM does when it's optimizing. I think we could optimize much faster than it does, but we haven't written our own optimizer yet. So until then, we have to live with LLVM's optimizer. This one will fail, because it always fails. I'm not sure if those ones were supposed to fail. Oh! Uh-oh. Interesting. We're going to have to fix this. What level? Arcadia Surprise. Let's see what happens. This might tell us why those other levels... If I could find my frickin' mouse cursor to click on this. All right. We're going to run a debug build again. I didn't expect it to die that quickly, but... Surprise. Test. Retry. Okay. What are we doing? We're asserting we did this thing where we add the guy and then we're going to remove her. But she's not in there. Visual Studio, C++. God damn it. Just do it. Just do it. All right, finally. So she's way down there. You know what we're going to do? We're going to use this flag instead. Is that actually flags added by charm? How did she get... Oh, because there's clones? Okay. Right. Here's what I forgot. These characters are all clones of each other, which is kind of weird, but in this case it's true. And so even if this is the first thing that we call for this character, in that transaction, another clone's motion could be there. Okay. So here I'm going to say, we're going to do this differently. Okay. Is greater than fake move or dummy or placeholder index. We're just not going to assume it's 0, right? We're going to say, but this is the value of doing something crappy like that first. Like I didn't have to think about this. And we got our code working pretty well for a lot of things. All right. So now let's run it again. Okay, it's not asserting. Will it solve? It didn't solve. So the question is, so that one didn't solve. Does this one solve? So when these fail tests like this, it could be because I introduced a bug, or it could be because there was a bug before and it's not a problem now. So I'm just going to start playing this one and see if I could figure out what the deal is. And the thing is, these levels are kind of hard and I haven't dealt with them in a while. They're maybe not that hard, though. I mean, maybe I just have to re-record. Whoa! See that? guys on the bottom didn't go for some reason. Is it because once one of them can't go, the rest can't go? Certainly doesn't have anything to do with the Bard charming. For some reason, only the last guy can go. This is weird. All right. Here's what we do. I'm going to put this back here, and we're just going to keep running this one. So that's on a freshly loaded world. Now nobody goes. I feel like it has to do with the order of entities in the world. So if I delete that thief, now everyone can go. Let's make it just move all the move all the fighters left. Try that. I bet that no, then the okay. See, this is weird. So they can go right when the thief can't go right, but they can't go down. This is going to be some other crappy code that I wrote a while back. Like what happens when I do this? Then it's fine. Except that push is messed up. Wow. Oh, because pushing doesn't look up the controller proc correctly. Pushing is one of the sub-zeros that we haven't replaced yet. So the fact that this warrior is like kind of stepping into the block, that's actually fine. I mean, quote, fine, unquote. We don't expect that to be right yet. But like, why? We're just going to go back to this. Let me just go to, the situation will be simpler if I just go to 2 characters, right? Whoops. Oh, this might matter, that one of these guys was like the primary clone. One of the guys I deleted, and so once I deleted him, none of us could move. Let's just see. So, thief is turn order ID. That guy's the primary. So let's delete these 2 and see what happens. Okay. That should not matter. All right. Are we in the debugger? No. All right. Okay. What did we do wrong? What did we do wrong? Still happening. Okay, well, the way this works is we're going to call let's go to the top of the file. So we have enact move, which iterates over all the clones. by calling try move clones. And then we do move individual guy and put things into the transaction. I feel like maybe we're accidentally calling this. Like, did I correctly, let me look. Cancel, charmed. Look, we didn't say, are we charming? So first of all, we go if charming. Okay, let's save that. We don't need to debug this. Or we have debugged it. See, the more you can, whoever asked about debugging being tedious, the more you can do that and just jump to the answer without having to step through things, the better debugging will be. So to cancel this, we also just kind of want to know, we only want to cancel for the current clone, right? So we're going to say, we're going to assume nobody went and removed something. The purpose in the case of multiple clones to leave the previous clones intact. Okay. So yeah. So then when we say cancel charmed moves, we pass that, and that is going to be however many moves there were before we did this. Okay. Here we are. Hey, look, Warrior can move now. See, I fixed it. I fixed it. All right. Test this. Test this. Test this. I mean, the frame rate is low because of super debug build, but it's succeeding. Awesome. And how about the barred one? Barred one. Yes. All right, great. Now we do our release build again. That is why we run Benny tests every once in a while. See, if we had made 5 more modifications to remove more sub-zeros, it would have been less clear what would have caused the actual problem, right? Because then you just have to think about more stuff like, wait, what changed? So many things changed, right? Not that many things changed. And so we were able to narrow it down. However, if you also run tests for every trivial change you ever do, then you don't actually spend that much time programming. And then you're like a regular web programmer, you know, where you're sitting on your butt eating Cheetos and running tests all day. So don't do that either. Is that a special rule for those levels? It is a use of something else that happens somewhere else in the game. It's not a special rule. How's it going, everybody? I actually wish I had some Cheetos right now. I've got the munchies. Got the munchies for some Cheetos. Instead, I'll have a few peanut butter M&Ms. Flaming hot Doritos Locos Tacos. Is that like some Taco Bell situation, or is it like a Doritos flavor? Peanut butter M&Ms are better than peanut M&Ms. If you're just getting peanut M&Ms, that's not good enough. Taco Bell. Well, good thing I don't eat at Taco Bell. Although in the future, all restaurants are Taco Bell, so I'm going to have a problem eventually. Is operator precedence screwed up, or is it just for readability? I just don't trust operator precedence ever in like any language. This is probably fine. In fact, while we're running the Benny test, let's make sure that this is fine, right? Although we have to So we're going to say can is false, and let's keep a dot there. So guy is a guy is a struct with supported by ID is 5, right? Okay, so if we do this, so that's fine. So that should print true. The problem is, even if the operator precedence were screwed up, it would be not of an and with a false, so it would be true anyway. So like, we actually need this to be, well, we'll try the true, and then we can change this to 0 and have it be false, right? Okay. So it's true right now. So if this is false, okay, great. So now if we do this, this should be true, I guess. No, it says false right now. Wait. Huh, okay. So this is the actual, right now not is actually a lower precedence than and, which probably isn't good. Oh, it should be false. No, you're right. You're right. Hold on. It should be false because not can is, okay, hold on. So this, we don't want this, right? This is the wrong answer. That's true. This is the right answer. That's false. Okay, great. Never mind. I was confusing myself. Yeah, I'm paranoid about operator precedence, honestly. I just, you know, especially when I have a long to-do list for my own compiler and like don't remember if I did that thing yet. I'll show you guys something cool after this. I need to make a new test for that level now that it works. We've still got a little bit to go in the Benny test. Another couple minutes. Any questions? Yeah, when I did the precedents for this language, I mostly followed C precedents, except I did change. Like there's something in C where I think it's like bitwise and or are totally messed up with respect to not or something like that. Or is it Boolean and or? I don't know. One of the ands and ors has like a totally screwed up precedence that is never what you want. And I believe I changed that, but I don't remember honestly what it is because I don't care about operator precedence. There's something like not, I think not is actually lower priority than like Boolean and an or something like that, bitwise and an or. There's something really weird like that where you'll get the wrong answer in C than what you expect. Are there bitwise operators? Yes. Are these replays just for playing player inputs? Yes. Yes, they are. At one point, do I go in and handle the cleanup tags? I just do it occasionally. And certainly, when I go do it, I tend to only do it in a specific place or in a specific area that where I'm working on the code. So if you search for cleanups, there's going to be lots and lots of them, right? There's still plenty, right? And it's just like, you know, I just didn't want to do that for a while and I still don't want to do it. But eventually, I would say when this game ships, a lot of these will be fixed and some of them won't. And some of them will have been deleted anyway because we'll have rewritten that part of the engine. And actually that just happened massively over the past few weeks with the movement system rewrites that I was doing. And actually, as we get closer to ship, that becomes less likely, right? Not as high. Well, there is some messed up precedence thing in C that makes me rage. I just don't remember what it is. Hope we're, yep, making some textures. Oh yeah, it's bitwise operator and double equal, I guess. There's something like that. Something like that. No questions? No questions? You guys know everything and you can just write this game without me having to do it? Because that would be great. I could just go on vacation and you guys can just make the game. You posted a question. I don't see one. Oh, up here. So I watched the transaction stream the other day. I wasn't clear on when moves got validated. Like if you try to walk into a wall, that gets rejected at some point. Is that before or after enters a transaction? Okay, what happens is you make the transaction that you would like, and then you submit it, right? Now, there's sort of two phases to whether it gets rejected. Walking into a wall, we prevent when you're even making the transaction that you would like. So this function here, can go, that I'm calling, that checks for things like that. It checks like, is there a wall there? And if there is a wall there, then we just don't even try to move you in that transaction, all right? If there's no wall there, then we put you that move in the transaction and check the transaction for conflicts. What that check for conflicts does is checks against other active transactions, right? Which can go, didn't do. Because they're two different things. Maybe that makes a little bit more sense. Do I have any advice on getting better at game design? Have high standards. A lot of people play a lot of video games and think they're all great. And you're not going to get good at game design if you think everything's great. It's seems a little goofy to say it that way, but it's true. 88 failed. So we have 2 more levels failed than we had, but I don't know what they are, and I don't know if it's a legit fail or if it's just a timing fail. I guess I'm going to look to see if anything sticks out, but out of 88 levels, it's going to be hard to see it. Skipping Siren V2? No, that's probably... I mean, also it could be that one of them is just a Bard level that doesn't... Oh, like this one's a Bard level. Let me see what happens if I try to play this one. I don't remember. Okay, that was wrong. So like what happened was I tried to go onto, okay, while we're here, we need to replace these with the thick boulders. Because that's why we have thick boulders, is when things are going to stand on them. Okay. Anyway. That's right, they are thick boulders. So she's going to go there. So now she tried to go north and the monsters died. So that time it was fine. But before it wasn't. Like she tried to go. And then failed and they like didn't die. So maybe my thing that cancels moves is not correct for some reason. That was fine though. This is a little bit of a goofy level. Spoilers. Okay, let me set up. We're going to remove all of Fix Me. But like even 88 levels succeeded, even if there's a Bard bug, I would feel fine checking this in. Although after we fix the Bard bug, it'll be even later, even better. We'll do a check-in. So now we're going to save as Fix Me again. Okay. Let me make this even easier to do. So he's going to push, and this is going to be like too high. Does that matter? So she just can't go. That's just not on the table. Interesting, that didn't matter. Is it that the transaction gets reverted? Weird. So it's not that she can't go. What is it then? That was pretty weird. It's probably fine though. That's probably just the movement code not snapping to squares. It could just be a cosmetic bug, because actually she should be able to go at any time. Okay, that was weird. Okay. So she's trying to go 1 in Y. But she has a support transaction still. Even though she's moving off. Okay. It's moving off a skipping stone generally will fail sometimes. So she has a support transaction. I guess I undid to before the input. Yeah, so she won't. All right. So my guess is if I move while it's green, let's see. If I move late in the green, so my support has been demoted to visual support. Okay, so now she's got a support again. And I'm moving off this thing. Now her support is going to fire first. And then this fires. So she'll actually successfully get off now. But in some cases she hasn't been. Okay. So what's going on? We have cases for stepping off a lily pad, but not necessarily for this. So this just has to do, so if you watch the transaction stream, when stepping off a lily pad, for example, we will either commit or not commit the transaction, depending on what we think the player wants. We're like not doing that here, or it's not working correctly, and that's causing a problem. So I think we will want to debug that. However, I don't think that has anything to do with what we are doing right now. So I'm just going to write down fix me on this list. And we're not going to worry about it. We're going to go back to the sub-zeros we were working on. Yeah, the question about should you charm things if you're riding on a stone is like a good question. We could change that rule. It might be better if we change it, I don't know. That's just the particular mechanic that happened to already be in the game, is that she charms on an active move of herself. That almost looks like the face of a snake. Snake. Well, it works a lot of the time. Okay, so sub-zeros. Actually, you know what? We're going to commit. So after we get the Bard working and get all this goofy stuff fixed, we are still going to need to enhance the Bard mechanics to do the new things. Well, we already did that a little bit. Like she can smash and push consistently now, but there's other stuff that's supposed to happen that I'll probably do tomorrow. Okay, here's another sub-zero. Kill velocity if we enter a transaction that is not controller proc. Check to see whether we were in fact in a controller proc. So if there's any controller proc anywhere, we'll call it other because that's what we were using. We'll just put an and here. Okay. Break T. Let's call it T for transaction. Okay. So we just break out of the whole loop. This is just for cosmetic stuff, so I'm not going to sweat this one and test it too heavily until we're done. So we have two more. Set duration. Who calls this? Legal if we have a controller move, since we don't use duration in that case. Well, let's just use the flag that we added. All right. Well, we can. Why don't we just go assert? All right. So, last sub-zero. in this type of transaction. All right. Okay. If single dot move, oh, well, this, I wanted this. If that found target type is true, if this is move type controller proc, found controller proc is true, if found target type just do that. And we got to do that. Okay. Great. Let's just test a couple of things. All right. Well, let's Benny test it again, because why not? We'll be a little paranoid. So if all that works, then we could do the fix me. And this is great. This is better progress than I expected to happen tonight, because I didn't know if I would have the Bard working for most levels by the end of the night. Because something, I mean, in principle, it could be simple, but something surprising could have happened to screw it up, but it didn't. So, you know, there's a bunch of Bard levels in this game, and they mostly work already. And, you know, maybe something subtle is broken in a couple of them at most, but that's great. Wait, did I really do release? Yeah. Okay. Benny test. Again. How are things going, people? What is happening in the world? Ooh, I have a package. has arrived. A package has arrived. Do I feel the pandemic has affected me and my company's overall productivity? It probably has, yeah, for the negative. But, we're doing what we can do. I tried get LFS. No, because they are not a proper solution to the problem. And like Git has the worst user interface in the universe, so why would you use it? Like it doesn't, yeah, doesn't make any sense. Do we see me ever working on games or other projects where I'm not the lead? Maybe. Maybe. We'd have to be a substantially bigger company than we are now. I'm glad you enjoyed The Witness. We worked really hard on that game for a long time. How many employees do we have? Like 13 or 14, something like that. Something like that. Am I still watching Westworld? This week's episode might be the last one. I can't take it anymore. Thanks for giving you hope in the future of programming. Well, I hate to put too much pressure on you, but the future of programming is you. I mean, I can affect the future of programming for probably realistically 30 more years if I hang in there and I'm really tough, which probably, has a probability of not happening. Whereas you have much more time than that. So there you go. Am I still watching Devs? Yes, Devs is quite good. The dialogue and acting became so weak. I don't think so. There's one character on Devs which I think wish I had been recast. There was definitely in the last episode, there's a few scenes that I was like, I wish the acting were better in these scenes. But for the most part, I'm still digging the show. Do I think I can work in tight budget and time constraints? Well, tight budget, like, what do you think I do? Dude, we make entire game engines and entire games with dozens or 100 hours of gameplay on budgets that a AAA company couldn't get up and eat breakfast in the morning on that budget. Uh, Time constraints, I prefer to optimize for quality over time constraint. There may be an opportunity for game designers to make some of the concepts more intuitive through gameplay. On the other hand, the non-Euclidean geometry and antichamber didn't really become intuitive. Antichamber isn't non-Euclidean. The stuff in the Wolfram, I didn't see the stream, but I saw the write-up, and I definitely think somebody could make an interesting game out of that. I don't know what it would be. I don't know if it would be like a Zachtronics game or something else, but there's a lot of potential there. A lot of potential. The blonde that works in devs? No, she's great. Amanda Peel? Is that the actor's name? What's her name? The woman who was in Scott Pilgrim. Alison Pill. Why am I forgetting her name? No, she's great. If you think she's not good, you're nutty. She is playing a character who is not very outward with feelings and is dealing with bottling in some very difficult things. But she's really good. Allison is the best actor there. Maybe. I think what's his name who plays the guy who runs devs may be the best actor. I forget his name. Why do I forget everybody's name right now? It's because it's late and I've been programming. Best movie I've seen recently. I mean, movies are bad generally. So like Parasite was probably the last reasonable movie that I saw, and that was in 2019. Is that true? Did I see anything on Netflix that was good? I don't know. Nick Offerman. Yeah, he's really good. Did I see 1917? No, but I definitely want to. Any love for Mr. Robot? No, that show's terrible. At least, I mean, I watched the first season. I mean, maybe it gets better, but I generally, like if you watch an entire season of a show and it's not good, like look, Mr. Robot is just the bad version of Fight Club. It's like Fight Club, but it makes less sense and is way less believable. So like just watch Fight Club. It only takes 2 hours and it has really good acting and really good cinematography. Just watch Fight Club. If you're too young to know what a classic movie that is, it's still good. Just watch it. Oh, hey, Lana. How's it going, everybody? Test is still running. Very efficient recommendation. Yeah, like Fight Club is not even 2 hours, right? It's like, it's probably 100 minutes. And like, that's what, 2 episodes of Mr. Robot, and there's like 20 something in the first season. I don't even know. Mr. Robot is like Fight Club plus that scene from the first Matrix movie where Neo is in the cubicle office running around. That's what Mr. Robot is. Mr. Robot is Only 20, but you know how good Fight Club is. Did I see Knives Out? Yes. The Boys is pretty good. I saw the first few episodes and I couldn't get into it. I don't know. I like the premise, but I couldn't get into the actual show. So I didn't watch anymore. But Devs is the good TV show that I've seen lately. Have I watched Leonard Bernstein's Harvard lectures? No. I could look those up. Did I like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Yes. Hey, our tests are done. And, of course, many levels failed, but 88, which is exactly how many we expected. So we're going to commit that. And that might be the stream. I definitely need to go fix that Fix Me level, but I could do that a different time. I feel like it's Miller time. I feel like this stream is just about done. For the charmed guy trying to follow Bard at the start of the stream and who couldn't because Bard was standing there, will the solution be to peek one extra step into the future in general? No, that's already, that's solved. I don't know, you must have peeked out on that part of the stream. That's solved because that's already generally handled. Like the stuff asking where you can go has to do that kind of thing anyway. So for example, we have Castaway in the blue bonnet there, 1 square south of the Bard, and so the Bard goes north and she comes along as well. So that's been fixed. Never mind the goofy slow frame rate, but yeah. Or it's asset loading of new animations. So it's totally fine. Is there any way to know if any of those failures are replay related? A lot of them are replay related just because on levels that are timed replays, which some of them have to be, many of them have to be, if I change the timing of stuff, there's a high probability of them breaking. So for some of those, that's just what happened. And I would have to go rewrite it or re-record it, which is fine. How many more timing changes do I think there will be? I don't know. A lot, probably. That's just tuning a game involves changing timing. That's just how it is. Have I watched Alex Garland movies? Yeah, I mean, Ex Machina I thought was really good. Annihilation I thought was not good. But the problem I had with Annihilation was the writing. And maybe the editing. Like, the acting was good. The cinematography was probably good. I wasn't really focused on it. But like the writing of Annihilation was really not good. The Ex Machina was very good, though. Are we going to develop version control? Not anytime soon. Maybe later. Yeah, I know he directed devs. Is there still much work left in this project? Yes, there's a lot of work left. There's a lot of work left, but a lot of the things are solved. Like, how's the engine going to work? How's this player movement going to work? What are the levels going to be like? Are we going to have enough levels? Are they going to be interesting enough? I promised you guys to show you something, so let's do that now. So we had point lights that I implemented a long time ago. I haven't tried it yet, but Salvador implemented shadow ability on the point lights. So first, let's make it bright. Let's jack up the outer radius. Whoa, that's very bright. And let's take it down a little bit. Okay, so currently this has no shadows, but cast Omni shadows. There we go. So right now we're stressing the shadow map a little bit. It's like maybe a little bit low res, but we're going to tune that. We're probably going to dither it the same way sun shadows are dithered. Yeah. So we actually have shadowed point lights now. That's the cool thing. You know, it wouldn't normally have a light that bright, which also, you know, there we go. Woo. So, you know, up until now, we've just had shadows from sunlight, which is unidirectional. So this actually makes a shadow cube map. And the reason it's a shadow cube map is that it can shadow things above the light source. Like let's try to find a good, like if we put this over, it's hard to see where exactly the object is. But if we put it like inside the guy, see it's casting shadows up and down and all over in all directions. So that's good. It's kind of expensive to do that. And of course, you notice the shadows closer to the point have higher resolution than further away. That's sort of this drawback of Omni shadows in general, because the light rays aren't parallel. They get wider apart as you go out. And so you just need like very large resolutions for things that are far away, and that tends to be a bummer. So you can even see it starting to happen here. Here it's like higher and better, and here it's like worse. And there the pixels are big and chunky. So that's stuff that we have to handle by dithering the shadows or something. There's various approaches that would help with that. Let's make a second one. We have multi shadows. Let's make a third one. So yeah, if you want very visually confusing shadows, you could have a whole bunch of point lights. Let's move them all around at once. Do we have some way of disabling shadow maps for certain faces? We probably will have that. We don't have it, I don't think, right now. Whether you really want to do that depends on what your method is for rendering to a cube map, which is unclear. Like there's definitely tricks where you like project the whole scene to a cube. I don't know if we're going to end up doing those. How hard would it be to have a character carry a light source? It's not hard. You could just do it. If I knew the bone names on this guy, like I could attach it to him right now. So let's get rid of all of these, except the first one. Wait. Which one is the one that I made? This one. Okay, so what's the volumetric shadows? I'm not even sure what that's for. I guess that's for fog. Anyway, so I don't remember what his bone names are. Let's turn the brightness down again and the radius up. But I could mount it to the guy. So this guy is 1261. So I could go mount on 1, 2, 6, 1. And if I knew what his arm bone was called, I could put the name of the arm bone in here. I don't know that, so it should just follow him around right now. Although it seems like it's not actually doing that. So you know what? There's some code missing from the engine that says that point lights are allowed to move. That's probably what it is. So it's not actually moving with him, but it's a relatively small amount of code to make it work. It's like a couple lines. No, these shadows do not get baked in, which is why the light could move. These are fully dynamic. So like part of the idea is to reserve a slot. So like if a wizard teleports, you could have a flash, like a brief flash coming from his position, casting shadows everywhere, and that would be really cool. Let me... why can I not? Oh. I was like... I feel like for some levels, you want Omni shadows a lot more for others. I kind of want to look for one. Like, because there's not that much of the scene above you, it doesn't seem to matter as much. But the problem is, as soon as you try to get rid of it, you're going to find that you wish it was there. So here I pasted that same light from the other level, and like these lights from these pipes and stuff are sort of upward cast shadows from where the point is, and you know, you kind of want those. Or even this stuff, like if this is at character level, this stuff in here, it needs to be upward, right? So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It'd be neat having the character hold a torch in a dark environment. We could do that. Did you render all of this? What do you mean, did I render all of this? The video game is rendering all of this. I don't... You mean, did we make the art? Our company made the art. I didn't personally do any of this. I did some art direction. You mean the 3D models? I mean, well, they're modeled, they've got skeletal stuff on them, and then the engine renders them in real time. That's all. If you mean for the characters. The backgrounds and stuff, those are just static meshes. Oh, do you mean, is the background pre-rendered, if that's what you mean? No. So like, if a level like this, I could certainly grab all the pieces and move them around, right? So it's not like a pre-rendered background. It's relatively dynamic, although for gameplay we assume it doesn't like move, because it's just easier to assume that. Anyway, though. Is there a storyline? There'll be something. There'll be something. All right. Well, I think that's it for the stream. Thank you, everybody, for coming and visiting. And, well, as you can see, video games, they take work to make, but, you know, they also, if you do put in the work, they get closer every day to being done. Is there any baked lighting? Yeah, there's pre-baked ambient illumination, or what would you call it? So like here, you're looking at the output of the baker on all the surfaces, right? And then that gets multiplied by surface color and dynamic lighting. All right, thank you everybody for coming by, and I'll see you later.